And welcome back to the Spicy Sports Show with Sam Cerrone, coming to you live from essentially Portland, Oregon. It's 4:36 p.m., a little bit of a late start. I just got into the studio a little bit late, mostly because I was just watching Champions League soccer, which was fantastic. If you watched it again, it's Champions League soccer, some of the best you'll ever see, best clubs in Europe, honestly. But we're not going to be talking about soccer today. Today is the NCAA tournament. Today is the beginning of the NCAA tournament. We have a lot of games to cover. 68 teams this year. I'm not too worried about who is in and who's out. Honestly, if you're the last that are going to be in the tournament, I'm not too worried about it because at the end of the day, you shouldn't be in. If you're borderline, you're going to be out within the first couple rounds. So again, a lot on the plate. We're going to go bracket by bracket, each region here. And I do have intern Jake here. Intern Jake doesn't travel on the road with me, so he has his own bracket, which he made. I'm going to go over some of his picks as well. So again, a lot to talk about on the Spicy Sports Show. Again, it's my first show back in about 2 months, back in the Portland area. And it feels pretty good. I'm on vacation now, which vacation for me means just staying at home and sleeping till about noon, which is great. I personally love it. But again, we have a lot to talk about, so let's get right into it. NCAA tournament action kicking off tonight. Right now, as we see here, at the half, Hampton and Manhattan in the NCAA tournament opener. Hampton up 38-31. Again, this is the first four. So for those of you who don't know what the first four means, it is the first four teams that are going to be essentially for playing into the tournament. For me, I don't like it. I think staying to 64 teams is great. Adding 4 more teams doesn't really make sense. But hey, I'm not the one to make those final decisions. But right now, Hampton up 38-31 at the half. The next one, BYU and Ole Miss, 2-11 seeds. I think BYU has a lot of potential. They do have a great score in here. So let me go ahead and take a look. They knocked off Gonzaga earlier in the season. 25-9 is their record overall. And Kyle Collinsworth is the guy who has more triple doubles in the NCAA this season than anyone else. I think he has 6 this season for BYU, which is unheard of, really, in NCAA tournament and NCAA play. Obviously, Russell Westbrook, he just does it like normal every night. But for a team like BYU and Kyle Collinsworth, I think they're a team in the first 4 that could probably advance a couple rounds. And I do have them going farther, pretty far in the tournament. So we're going to talk about some NCAA tournament games right now. So let's go out with the bracket with Kentucky. Kentucky is the number 1 overall seed in the tournament. They are the odds-on favorite to win the tournament. They went undefeated in the regular season. Some of the biggest challenges in the Midwest that you'd see here, looking at it, Kansas is the number 2 seed in that region. Kansas has had some struggles lately. They did lose to Iowa State late. In the Big 12 championship game, I think they're reeling. Perry Ellis, their star player, is just coming back. He's starting to get back in the rotation of being out. He was out for a couple weeks. Now that he's back, we'll see if they can be a legitimate number two seed in the tournament. My favorite to knock off Kentucky would be Notre Dame. Notre Dame is probably one of the hottest teams in the tournament going in, defeating Duke and North Carolina on their way to the ACC championship. Notre Dame, that was a pretty good record if you take a look at it. They are the number 3 seed, and of course, my Maryland Terrapins as a number 4 seed. One of my first complaints, honestly, is Maryland as a 4 seed. Again, it's maybe a biased opinion, but when you're 27-6 and 14-4 in Big Ten conference play, you probably deserve a higher seed, at least a 3. For most of the mock draft, they were going to be a 3 seed. They lost in the semifinals to Michigan State, even though Michigan State got beat by Maryland. They just got swept by Maryland in the regular season. So Maryland should be a higher seed, and it's unfortunate that they're going to be in Kentucky's bracket. But one of the first picks I'm actually going to reveal, intern Jake has Maryland beating Kentucky. Who knows? I mean, that they have the length. Maryland does have the length. They have the athleticism at point guard. Melo Trumbull, probably one of the best point guards in the country right now. averaging 16 points a game. Des Wells, who is phenomenal right now, the senior averaging 15 points a game, and then Jake Layman, who's probably going to be a lottery pick this season in the NBA, and when he heads out, 12 and a half points a game. So not bad for a Maryland team that's back in the tournament for the first time in a couple years. And then looking at the rest of the bracket, you have Purdue, who's a pretty good team. Buffalo, who's made their first NCAA tournament appearance. I do think they're coming out of the MAC, 23-9 on this season. They're a team that coached by Bobby Hurley, who, if you know college basketball, used to play on the Duke Blue Devils back in the 90s. Not a bad coach and not a bad player as well. I do have Buffalo upsetting West Virginia in the early part in this part of the tournament, but I do have them bowing out to Maryland next round, as it does intern Jake. So we're going to go through the picks right now here. So without further ado, we're just going to go over the Midwest. So Kentucky, I have them beating Manhattan, going on the next round. 8-9, Cincinnati, Purdue. I have Purdue going. 8-9 is just a tricky matchup, but I'm going to pick the team who's played in the tougher conference over Cincinnati. Buffalo is going to be my first upset strictly because of their ability to shoot the ball, honestly. I think that they're one of the best teams in the country. They even, in terms of scoring, they're averaging 75 points a game, holding their opponents to under 69. They're 0-2 versus the top 25, but they led Kentucky at the half. Well, earlier on in the season, if you remember, they led them by 5 at the half. And they also played Wisconsin at Wisconsin as well. Again, they both lost those games by double digits. But at some point in the game, Buffalo held a pretty good lead as well. So West Virginia, they are pretty good, but I do think that their injuries may be something to look at, especially Gary Brown. I'm not sure if he's going to be playing in this game. So we'll see what happens with that. So I'm going to have Buffalo with the upset. Maryland is reeling right now. They did lose to Michigan State in the Big Ten Conference Tournament in the semifinals, but I do have them beating Valparaiso, who's back in the tournament for the first time, I believe, in a couple of years. I think since 2013. Butler and Texas. Texas is a team that people are buying as a team that could go far, honestly. For Texas, they are a name team. Rick Barnes has always had good players, but the season's been up and down. I mean, 20-13 on the season. They're under 500 in Big 12 conference play. Normally, that's not good enough for you to get in the tournament. But I guess for this time only, Texas is in as an 11 seed. They're playing a Butler team, also with around the same record. They're an average team. So, I mean, I'm picking Butler just because it's a safer pick. I mean, Texas has the potential to go a couple rounds, but I've never gone too much on potential in the tournament. So I'm just going to go Butler over Texas. Notre Dame will have no problem with Northeastern. Wichita State going to be as a 7 seed, and which I think is way too low for a Wichita State team. They have a great senior backcourt, Ron Baker and Van Fleet, 2 guards that are some of the best in NCAA tournament play. And so Wichita State can go pretty far. I do have intern Jake's bracket here. He has them going against Kentucky, and he has Wichita State beating Kentucky. If I don't, no, yeah, it does. Yeah, you do. He has that beating Kentucky, so that's not bad. So they have that ability to get far. One matchup I am excited for coming out of this bracket is, again, when Kansas defeats New Mexico State. If I have that right. Yeah, New Mexico State. Coming out of the WAC, 23-10 New Mexico State. Kansas is going to get breezed by them, no problem. 13-1 in conference play. But they haven't played too many good teams, so I think Kansas is going to win. The matchup I'm looking forward to is Wichita State and Kansas. One of the reasons why, Kansas does not like to schedule Wichita State. They don't. They're in-state rivals, and it's essentially Big Brother not wanting to fight Little Brother. So that's going to be out of this region, that's the most exciting matchup I see. And so I have Wichita State going pretty far. I have them beating Kansas, strictly off the fact that Wichita State has a better lineup and a senior-laden lineup. I think heading into the tournament, again, you have those superstars that can get pretty far. You saw Kentucky last year. But who did they run into? They ran into a UConn team that was senior-laden, had a great backcourt, and was able to, again, pass the ball. They were able to shoot very well. And when you're hot, that's what I'm going to root for. So I'm picking Wichita State upsetting Kansas. So again, for this round of 32, Kentucky beats Purdue, Maryland beats Buffalo. Butler beats Notre Dame beats Butler, and Wichita State beating Kansas. So then we have our Sweet 16s matchup in that conference. It'll be 1-4. Kentucky versus Maryland, and then Notre Dame versus Wichita State. For me, it's a no-brainer. Intern Jake has Kentucky going pretty far. I think he has them beating. Actually, no, yeah, he has them beating Maryland now. And then on the other end, I have Notre Dame beating Wichita State. Again, Notre Dame is the hottest team going in the tournament right now, so I'm going to ride with them, which means the final of the Midwest region final is going to be between Kentucky and Notre Dame. My personal pick for them to win would be Notre Dame. Kentucky, you've had a great season, I think, going pretty far. Their first undefeated regular season since the 1976 Indiana team. That's a great accomplishment, no doubt about that. The problem that I have with Kentucky is who is going to shoot the ball in a close game. Kentucky has not really played in some close games this season. Again, as I mentioned, they were against Buffalo, but they blew them out in the second half. It wasn't a contest. Who's going to be the guy that, with under 3 minutes left, has the ability to take over? I mean, you can have the Harrison twins, Aaron Harrison, Andrew Harrison. They played really well last season in the NCAA tournament. I think Aaron Harrison had some really good shots against Wisconsin. But at the end of the day, I'm gonna ride with Notre Dame strictly because of their team that they have. They have a team of players, not just one and done superstars that they can dominate the SEC. Which, honestly, other than maybe Arkansas, wasn't a great conference this season. Really, they steamrolled the conference. They were blowing out opponents. They were 18-0 in conference play. And honestly, other than Arkansas and a game against Ole Miss that was pretty close as well, and one game against LSU, it really was a pretty easy schedule for Kentucky. And I think this is where it finally ends. I have Notre Dame getting out of the Midwest region, and for intern Jake, it looks like he has Notre Dame coming out of the Midwest as well, beating Kentucky. So it looks like we kind of agree on the same thing with Notre Dame, just because I think they are the best team, they're the hottest team, and in the NCAA tournament, that's what you have to ride with going into the tournament. So we're going to take a short break, but when we come back, we're going to go over the East region. The number one team in that seed is Villanova. So we're going to see which teams does Villanova have to compete with to get to the Final Four. So here is Ed Sheeran, I See Fire, the Kygo remix on the Spicy Sports Show with Sam Stern on Spreaker Radio.
This is you and in fire, and we shall all burn together. Watch the flames climb high into the night, calling out, Father, oh, stand by and we will watch the flames burn over and on the mountainside. And if we should die